Javi and Linda enter the bank owned by the Kemper family to find out where the owner lives, but Javi's lack of ability to interact in polite society lands him in hot water. We're going to talk about it right here in our review of Gunslinger Spawn number 32 from Image Comics. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Gunslinger Spawn number 32 from Image Comics. Before we get started, let's take less than 60 seconds to recap what happened in the previous issue. Linda took Javi to see the shaman for mystical medical attention because the wounds in his torso that were created by his fight with the angels aren't healing very well. The shaman heals him, but Javi was disturbed to learn that Taylor, who was left in the shaman's care, is gone. He struck out on his own. Later, Javi explains he needs to deal with the man who hurt his family, which is why they're in this small town and particularly focused on this bank. And we see in flashbacks the savage gunfights that were taking place in the past in the Old West 200 years ago that began Gunslinger's path to revenge. That brings us up to Gunslinger Spawn number 32. Javi and Linda enter the bank owned by the Kemper family, supposedly, posing as a married couple interested in opening several accounts. Javi flashes a lot of cash, suspiciously so, and insists on seeing the owner. Linda tries to calm him down, but it doesn't go too well, and his lack of finesse starts to draw the attention of the bank manager and the security guard. Before things get out of hand, Linda snatches up Javi and says, "We're out of here, thank you very much. We'll be back later," just to kind of exit the situation before it gets out of hand. When Javi and Linda get back outside and into Linda's car, she blows her stack because he's not only carrying around this big duffel bag full of cash that looks very suspicious, he's also got guns, big knives, and he looks like he's ready to rob a bank or do some kind of mischief that is not going to be perceived well by anybody. In particular, Linda is very perturbed that Javi's lack of common sense is putting her in danger. And she says, "I'm done with this. We're through. I'm off." And she storms off and just goes to sit in a park bench to figure out what to do next. Javi manages to put aside his single-mindedness about getting revenge, realizing he put Linda in a lot of danger potentially. So he buys her some flowers, goes to where she's sitting on the bench, tries to smooth things over, and they agree that at least for whatever path that Javi's on, they need to part ways because it's becoming too dangerous for Linda, and Javi doesn't want the potential burden of her getting hurt put on his conscience. That evening, Javi just is hanging around town and decides to go to a bar where he's just relaxed, chilling in a corner, maybe spreading some cash around, and he draws the attention of two ladies who are very interested in his good looks and his money, and it turns out they're willing to tell him anything he wants to know, especially the location of the bank owner and where his ranch is situated outside of town. A few hours later, we catch up with Javi as he exits the passenger side of a tow truck in which he hitched a ride to get near the bank owner's ranch property, at least the acreage. He waits till the tow truck driver drives down the road and is far enough out of sight where Javi can pull out that little lizard that changes into his flaming horse. He hops on the flaming horse and rides down the hillside and through the woods to get to the outer tree line that edges the bank owner's property. Sensing he's about to do battle, Javi gets into his gunslinger gear, but instead of doing a sneak attack to try and raid the entire ranch, all of a sudden he starts hearing guard dogs sniffing around and barking in his direction, and they give him chase. But the ranch owner who's inside hears all this ruckus, thinks that there's something going on with the dogs, but suddenly all the dogs go quiet. So he figures whatever the dogs are chasing, they caught and killed, and that's the end of it, and so he's safe inside. The bank owner, who we believe is Kemper, is discussing the day's activities with his first lieutenant, and the lieutenant says, "Hey, we had this weird couple come into your bank, and it looks like one of them was wearing gunslinger gear." Kemper says, "Okay, well, you need to find out where they went, starting with that car that we now know is Linda's car. Find that car and bring everyone to me." Suddenly, the house goes completely dark, the lights all go out, and Gunslinger busts in to start committing chaos with the dogs right behind him. And that's the issue. Starts slow, but picks up steam, and it ends on a banger of a cliffhanger, which we won't spoil too much of here. Let's move over to the character work. So through all the bloody violence and supernatural action, Javi learns a lesson about interacting with people. Linda's outburst or just tantrum or whatever you want to call it makes him think about the actions he's taking. And when he takes risks, there is a potential that he could endanger the lives of the people around him and the allies, his friends, the people who are helping him. And so this causes him, or forces him to reconsider that he can't always take risks just because he feels like it. He's got to consider the consequences of his actions. And he learns basically a very special lesson about what happened at the bank. Let's move over to the art and the visual presentation. We said it before, we'll say it again. Carlo Barberi is a super great grade A choice to give you that clean, flowy, energetic, dynamic style of Spawn that matches the way the McFarlane invented Spawn way back in the 90s. Barberi carries that through. It looks great. The line work is crisp. The curves flow beautifully. And then you have Ivan Nunez on art, which in our estimation is, or I should say, who in our estimation is one of the finest colorists around. Ivan Nunez is a fantastic colorist. So from an art perspective, you've got the right team working together well and giving you a great looking comic. Let's move over to talk about pacing and structure. If it wasn't clear from the description, the story starts slow and you don't really get much out of the beginning part or through to the half and maybe even 2/3 mark of the story. It's all about Javi and Linda, them arguing, sort of reconciling, and then splitting up, which is fine, but there's nothing much that comes out of it. But once Javi picks up the lead on Kemper's location in the ranch and that whole sequence plays out, pace really picks up and you hit a very hard-hitting cliffhanger to end it up. So in other words, the pacing's a mixed bag. Starts low, but gets better as you go. And as far as the structure of the story, it's all about the ending here, because something happens at the very end of the issue that could potentially, if it's carried through, change the entire direction of the series and where Javi goes next. We don't know that for sure. We won't know until we see issue 33, but there is potential in the ending to really course correct into a different direction. Let's move over to talk about themes and the kind of the depth of the story. And as you would expect from a Spawn comic, it's not a whole lot of depth to it. That's just sort of the way it is. We're good, bad, or indifferent. The latter half of the comic puts a lot of focus squarely on Javi's journey as a revenge quest. So if you need to put a label on the theme, it's all about revenge. And for the most part, he succeeds by the time he gets to the end of this issue. But if you're looking for a lot of depth to this comic, this is a Spawn comic. It's all about the visuals and action, so you're not going to get a lot of depth here. If we pull back and look at the bigger picture of where this issue fits in the greater Spawnverse, it's still on its own, although the consequences of the Heaven Hell War from Spawn number 350 play a significant part in what happens in the story. And even through the journey, there is a brief bit of narration where they acknowledge the fact that there is nobody on Earth who draws power from either heaven or hell that still has access to that power. Javi acknowledges that's a detriment for him because he no longer has his powers, but at the same time, his enemies are in the same boat. So even though in any other circumstance it would feel like now being powerless, he's at a detriment, he acknowledges that now the playing field is a bit more even because he's also a trained expert fighter. So this kind of gives him I won't say a leg up, but at least gives him an even shot to take his revenge. Final thoughts. What do we think about Gunslinger Spawn number 32? It's a slow start. There's a status quo change for Linda because she chooses to depart, although that's probably not going to be permanent. But once Javi finds out where to go next, the issue picks up a significant amount of speed and it ends in a really banger cliffhanger that could change the direction of the series going forward. Barberi's art is gorgeous. It looks fantastic. Plus, Ivan Nunez's colors are amazing. And McFarlane's script does build up to a satisfying conclusion, even if it does take a lot of winding and meandering to get there. Therefore, we're going to give Gunslinger Spawn number 32 from Image Comics an 8 out of 10. Let us know what you think. Are you following the series? If you are, give us a thumbs up. If you're following any of the Spawn titles, give us a thumbs up. And let us know in the comments section, what do you think about Gunslinger compared to the other Spawn or Hell Spawns in this universe, and how you feel this series is shaping up compared to the others. Thank you very much for joining. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned through the outro for the next review.